Today I'm going to show you how I made these fun geometric copper earrings with a few little embellishments, beads, a little bit of wire wrapping, some hammering, some texturizing, and a whole lot of fun and sparkle and style. I was going to also make these in today's video, but I think one pair is probably enough. Maybe we'll do these another day. Let me know if you would like to know how to make these. These seem to be popular. I posted them on Facebook and they already sold, so I need to make another pair anyway, so maybe we'll do a video. But these are what we're going to concentrate on today, so let's get started. Here's what I used to make these earrings. Some chain nose pliers. I always like to have my needle nose pliers handy. I have some flat nose pliers. If you have these, they will probably come in pretty handy for making some of these angles that we're going to make. My nylon jaw pliers to straighten out some wire. My bail making pliers and a sharp flush cutter. You'll need a bench block and a chasing hammer and a ruler, something to mark your wire with. And in terms of wire, I'm using 16 gauge dead soft copper wire. I love working with this, especially for earrings. It's so malleable and something that looks just so plain on the roll like this can be transformed into something so sparkly and pretty and strong like this. So I love that. And I'm also using some 24 gauge copper wire for a little bit of weaving work. And speaking of weaving, you'll need some beads. And it kind of depends on the look that you want and the size of your earring. I'm using these copper beads along with some glass faceted accent beads. You will need ear wires. You will need some jump rings, a couple of jump rings, either ones that you have purchased or ones that you have made yourself. Anything else? I think that's it in terms of supplies. I already have the measurements that we need to make this size earring. I kind of sketched it out and wrote down the lengths of wire and all that. So what I came up with is a length of wire that is 5¼ inches long. So, and I've already cut these. Once you've flush cut your 2 pieces of wire, one for each earring, each one 5¼ inches long. We are going to mark the middle. I think I probably forgot to tell you that we need a Sharpie or something to mark your wire. I don't know. I always forget to tell you something. So we're going to mark the center of this wire. And the center of this turns out to be 2½ inches plus 1/8 of an inch, which is right there. And then let's do our second wire, mark it at 2½ plus 1/8 inches. Let's make sure that I did that right and that it's the same length on each side of the mark. And it is. Make sure I did this one right. Yes, okay. So we have the center of our wire marked, and that's going to represent this bend right here. Now I know that we want each side of the square to be 1 inch. So from your center mark on the wire, Mark 1 inch out on each side. And then we're going to mark 1 more inch out on each side. All right, so what we have here, I don't know if you can see my marks. You probably cannot see the marks on the wire now, but we have a center mark there. We have a mark 1 inch away from that on each side, and then another mark another inch away from that on each side. Now we'll do the same thing to the other wire. Place your center mark on one of the inch marks on the ruler and mark 1 inch and 1 inch out like that. Now we can start bending to make our square shape. So what I find most helpful is to have some flat nose pliers. You can use chain nose pliers if you don't have flat nose pliers. You just have to be careful to keep your wire straight. So what I'm doing is I'm going to place the edge of my flat nose pliers right on the center mark. Hold it firmly, and then using my index finger on the left side of this wire, I'm going to press the wire up against the pliers. Make an angle like that. Then rotate the wire, place your pliers on that 1 inch mark that we made, and again bend the wire up like that. Now I'm going to turn this over and find our other 1 inch mark, put the pliers on it, and bend the wire. So now we have something that looks like this, but we need to make our loops on top. And so what we're going to do is find your other inch mark right here, and this time place your pliers on the inside of that mark, the other side of that mark, and bend this wire, this end of this wire up. All right, so it looks like that. And then do the very same thing to the other end. Place your pliers on the inside of the square and bend that wire up. And don't worry if it's kind of wonky looking right now. We're going to fix that. But right now, we want to do our other wire exactly the same way so that our earrings, we can shape them the same size and dimensions and all that. So let's do the second one. Put your pliers on, and I'm right-handed, so if you're left-handed, I think you're going to have to do opposite of what I'm doing. So place your pliers on the center mark that we made to the right, just to the right, all right, to right on that mark, and then with your left hand, bend the wire up, remove the pliers, put them on the next 1 inch mark, bend the wire, turn it over, place your pliers on that 1 inch mark, bend it like this. So we have this, and now we have to bend our top so that we can make the loop. So find your mark. Here's my mark. Place the pliers on the inside, toward the inside of the square this time. and bend that end of that wire up. Turn the piece over, place your pliers on the inside of the square, and bend that end up. All right, so now we have this. Now I have a little curve right here, and I'm going to have to work on that and straighten it out. One thing about these earrings is we're probably going to have to do a lot of adjusting and straightening with these, and that's okay. They are organic. They're not going to be absolutely perfect, but they're going to be darn near perfect. They're going to be real pretty. So now we have our two squares here, and we're going to hammer them and give them not only some texture, but when we're hammering them, it also gives the wire strength. And that's very important when you're working with dead soft wire. Now what I'm doing is, before I start hammering, I would like to get these two pieces as straight as I can and as parallel to one another as I can. So just take your time and work with them. Keep them straight. Keep your corners neat. And that's good for that one, because we can adjust a little bit more later. But the important thing now is we have two pieces that are the same size and dimension. Now let's add some fun texture and strength to these. So take the large end of your chasing hammer and hold your piece and just go straight up and down. We're going to give it some shape, a little bit of a square shape. Then turn it over. Do the same thing on the other side. Now, can you see the difference between the one that we've hammered and the one that we haven't hammered? And I can already tell it has more strength to it. So now take the other piece and do the same thing. And we're not going to hammer it to smithereens. We're just giving it a little bit of character right now. Turn it over and do the other side. Okay. Now we have them flattened nicely, but we want to go a step further. See that nice shine and reflection we get from this piece that's already done? And by the way, I put this through the tumbler so it has even extra sparkle, which is amazing. We get that with the ball peen part of our hammer. And what we're going for here is just to gently hammer in a straight up and down motion on this piece to give it these little facets, if you will. And we're not going to texturize or texture our parts for our loops. You can if you want. I have not done that. I just kind of like the way that the smooth copper looks for the loops, but by all means, make these your own. Do whatever you wish. Now we have one side that's textured. Now turn it over and do the other side. There's one. It is so strong, y'all. I can't believe how much strength a little hammering will give this wire. Now let's do the other one. All right. And when you have it the way you want it, then we're going to make the loops. The thing to keep in mind when we're going to do these top loops is to make sure that these two pieces are of even length. And these are, on this one, one of them is just a teeny bit longer, so I'm going to trim it ever so slightly so that we'll have nice, even loops. Now take your bail making pliers, and on this first step, grab one end of one piece of that wire. Make sure it's nice and flush here, that nothing's sticking out on the top. And you may have to move this side carefully out of the way just a little bit. That's okay. Grasp that firmly and then roll it back. Kind of rotate your hand, rotate the pliers, and make a loop until it is touching the back side of that wire. And do the same thing to the other one. Grab it, and make a nice tight loop until it's touching. Now, don't worry if these loops get out of whack a little bit, out of center. So we can fix that with either your flat nose pliers. Just kind of grab that loop, make adjustments as you needed. What we're going for is to get these two loops as parallel right next to each other as we possibly can. Make sure everything is in line. All right, can you see that? You can make little adjustments as you go. So those are sitting right next to each other. That's what it looks like from the front. That's what it looks like from the back. That's what it looks like from the side. right, now let's do the other one. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. That's what it looks like from the front and from the side and from the back. Now, we're going to give this structure some strength so that we can do our beading work. And what I have found is that when I wire the top of this first, that gives me the strength I need so this isn't moving around while I'm trying to work with the beads down here. So I'm going to take some of my 24 gauge wire. I didn't measure this. I'm, probably about 3 inches. Cut yourself about 3 inches. And I almost did not want to do this on this video because my wire weaving like this leaves a lot to be desired. Let's just say I need a lot more practice, but I'm not perfect, and I will get there. Practice makes perfect, or darn near. So I am going to show you my very shaky, not so great wire weaving skills. All right, so what I am doing is we want to wrap the top of this. Here's what I'm talking about, these wraps at the top. It gives it strength, and it also makes a nice polished off look. So I made one wrap around the top of that with my 26 gauge wire. And I want to keep this wire as tightly wound around here as possible. Now you can take this little tail, once you've got your wrap around there, you can take this little tail and just kind of get it out of the way for now. And then if you find it helpful, you can kind of grab the top of that earring with your pliers, or not, and wrap that wire 4 or 5 times around the top of that bail. Take your time and tighten the wires up together as you go. Don't worry about that little tail sticking down there. We're going to take care of that. That's 4 times. I think I can go one more time here. So now we have our 5 wraps around that bail, and now it's not going anywhere. So we need to snip off our excess wire. And what I like to do here is snip it off right inside, kind of between our 2 frame wires. So you've got a tiny little piece of wire on the back here, and then take your pliers and just gently squeeze them in the middle of that junction so that there are no pokey parts that will stick up and, hurt your ear. And let's do the other piece of excess wire. And take your pliers and squish that in there. So now, if you can see that, I can see the end of the wire there, but I can't feel it. And then this one up here is nice and tucked in into that, in between that bail. Oh, there it popped out. See? You just never know. I'm just going to squish it down there so that it's not poking out. And it still is. All right. There's one. Now let's see if I can do the other one. So I'm just getting this wire started here to kind of anchor it. I'm holding it against that bail, kind of wrapping it all the way around that little short tail, all the way around the bail like that. And then I like to take my pliers and tighten it up. Just kind of pull on each end of that wire. And keep your wires parallel. Now you're ready to wrap this wire 5 times around the top. And if you need to stop and tighten up your coil of wires on the front and on the back, you can do that. And one more time. Now I have 5. All right, nice and strong. So let's take this first little wire, bring it back here, trim it off, and tuck that little pokey end gently with your pliers. Tuck it in back there, squeeze it down just a little. And we'll do the same thing with this top wrap. Bring it back behind, cut it, and make sure the end is tucked in, flattened down back there. So now we have our 2 main earring bodies. Let's see if they are still the same size and shape. They are. I'm very happy with that. If yours got a little out of shape, you can easily shape them with whatever tool you need. Maybe you want to take your flat nose pliers and just kind of gently grab hold of the sides, straighten them up, whatever you need to do to them. And then when you have them however you like them, then we're going to weave in our bead element. Now to weave in our focal element here with our beads, I'm going to cut, maybe 6 inches of wire. And the first thing I'm going to do is string on our beads. And then I want them in a specific place on both earrings. And what I'm after here is to have them the width of the earring right here. In other words, however wide your focal element is, I want it to look like it's just sitting right on the frame at that point. And the way I'm going to do this is to mark that point on our earring. So kind of place your beads there, and wherever it hits, you sit it wherever you want it to hit on that frame, and then place a mark on our earring frame. That's going to be our guide for where to wrap the wire. While I'm at it, I might as well do it on this one as well. See, I want it to sit right there. So I may need to move that wire a little bit out of the way and make a mark. So kind of have your beads in the center of this weaving wire. And you got to corral these little guys sometimes because they'll try to make their escape. And so hold your beads kind of firmly on the wire here, or in between the wire, and start securing these beads to the wire. I'm just going to make one wrap on each side to begin with to kind of anchor them in place. All right, like that. So find your mark on your wire. Right there's our mark. And that's what I'm aiming for. That's where I want this wrap to sit. And again, I'm going to wrap this 5 times. Take your time. Get those wires parallel as you go. There's 4. One thing that I have learned about weaving wire is that it's easier to take the wire and push it through rather than pull it. You just start pulling it all the way through. It's going to get kinked up likely, and it's not going to give you a nice tight parallel wrap. So now I've got my 5 wraps there. I want to snug them up together on the front. I want to turn this over. I want to snug them up together on the back, and then just leave that wire out there right now. We don't need to do anything with that. So now we turn our attention to the other side. Find your mark that we made, or at this point you really could just eyeball it, get that bead element, that focal element sitting right where you want it, and then start wrapping your wire again. Okay, so kind of take the end, push it up through there, then you can use your pliers and pull it through tightly. Snug it up, make a nice tight wrap. Do it again. That's 4 wraps. And one more time. Snug it up on the front, turn it over, snug it up on the back. Make sure that's sitting where you want it to. Looks nice and centered. And then we're going to cut off our excess wire. So wrap it around the back here. Take your flush cutters and snip it off. Do the same on the other side. Snip that wire off on the back so that it's facing the back of the frame. The tip is up against the back of the frame. And take your pliers and smush that end down. All right, no pokey parts. How did we do? All right, that looks good. Now let's do the other one. All right. At this point, if you need to make any adjustments, we've just adjusted all the way through this, haven't we? So make whatever adjustments you want, tighten things up, straighten them out. I think these look good. I think we're ready for our ear wires. So I'm going to use some, I think these are 6mm jump rings. And I like to make jump rings, especially when I'm working with copper. I don't know why exactly. I just think they're a little more decorative. And plus, you know, I like to smush things. So I like to make my jump rings and then smush them with the hammer to give them a little texture. But whatever jump rings you have, whatever you want to use them. You could even use 2 jump rings in here if you want to give it a little extra decorative element. Oops, get my ear wires out. So we're simply going to place our jump ring through the bail right there. Put our ear wire on it. Close it up. Hey, come back here. All right, there's one. Close it up. And there we have our beautiful pair of earrings that are shiny and beautiful. Now I'm going to run these through the tumbler. I will take the ear wires off before I run them through the tumbler. But look at the difference. This one is, well, let's do it this way. Maybe you can see it better. I'll do this. That one is one that we just made before the tumbler. This is the one that I made earlier and put it through the tumbler. Look at the difference. Oh my goodness. I love my tumbler. And I will, again, link it in the description below if you are interested in a jewelry tumbler, and especially if you make a lot of copper jewelry. Oh my, you are going to love the results. Okay, now, so again, those are our square earrings. This is another version that you can make, but I think we've probably done enough today. But again, if you want to see me do a video on how to make these, please let me know and I will do so. Otherwise, we will just keep on doing some fun earrings and stuff. Actually, I'm going to do an inlay ring one of these days and film that process. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate your patience with my fumbles and everything. It's real life, so I don't try to overproduce things. It is what it is. Just have fun, make jewelry, have a ball. Let's learn from each other, and I'll see you soon. Bye.